Welcome or welcome back, whichever happens to apply to you. At the beginning of this, I made the promise not to mislead anyone with exaggerated thumbnails, and I'm pleased to say that's still the case. Today was indeed an excellent day. Now, I will say from the book I've been reading, I learned that when you have the rings down here, it's a shoulder stand, not a handstand. You have to have them all the way above your head for that. But regardless, I'm still aiming for a handstand on the rings. And as we're about to see from today, I'm not far off from it. Now, last time, I did 3 days in a row for the first time. It was the first day I was able to lean in further because of a bracket I made. And by the numbers, it was worse. I had 284.1 seconds of airtime with 7 touchdowns. But I printed my bracket again in a load-bearing material, and I couldn't help myself yet again. So I'm back at it for attempt number 15 on November 17th. So let's clear the scoreboard from yesterday and watch me go. Okay, before I begin, much like yesterday, today's focus is really just trying to get used to this new setup where I can lean in a couple extra degrees. So attempt number 1, here we go. Nice looking L-sit to start with. And going up with my head quite a bit above my hands. And watch it how high we push up. Now I will say I come back down because I think I set the bar too low initially, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. A little bit more push. I think I burnt a lot up in that first big push, going up high and then pushing up even higher. But we're able to come down in a controlled fashion where we don't touch the ground. A little bit too wide on the baby iron cross and had to set down there. And I think those are getting even wider still. Still a decent looking L-sit, maybe not quite up as high as it was. Trying to go back up. Yes, we are. And have the rings resting up against my shoulders. A little bit of a rest break, if you will. A little bit of push. And that's it for that one. So if we go to the scoreboard, that's 63.8 seconds in the air and 2 touchdowns. Okay, attempt number 2. Let's see what else we can do. Still not a bad looking L-sit. Honestly, I think it's better than the past 2 days were. Kick the bar a little hard. Pretty decent push there. A little bit more pretty decent push. Getting good at this. Touchdown. Some more baby iron crosses. Maybe not going out quite as wide. Again, this is 4 days in a row. Rings are not against my shoulders. I think now they are. You can usually tell when my hands quit shaking. We're going to go for some more. L-sit starting to sag a little bit. Go up again. You can do it. Oh, no, you cannot. Okay, so if we go to the scoreboard, that's 69.5 seconds in the air and 2 touchdowns. So on to the next one. All right, attempt number 3. Let's do it. We go. It's a little awkward. Now, I did mention this last time. I'm doing it this many days in a row. My shoulders feel okay, but my left calf is starting to get kind of bruised where I've been kicking this bar over and over. So we'll see as we go forward. We're doing some weird things, I think, in an effort to save it from further pain. Hey, we didn't touch. And try to go up again. You can usually tell when I start pointing my feet backwards that I'm not trying to go up. Nope, that's it for that one. So if we go to the scoreboard, that's 59.3 seconds in the air and 1 touchdown. Okay, attempt number 4. See what we can do. Starting with some baby iron crosses. Up we go. And again, it looks like my left hit after my right, which is unusual. I tend to lead with my left. some more pushes. Giving it what we can. Holding it with it up off my shoulders. Back down and a touch. Which kind of makes sense. We were up there a while, and this is the 4th attempt of the day. The L-sit looks like it's starting to fade. As do the baby iron crosses. I think we're just trying to find anything that doesn't feel exhausting at this point. And that right there may look like nothing, but it certainly doesn't feel like nothing. Okay, and that's it for that one. And if we go to the scoreboard, that's 60.1 seconds in the air and 1 touchdown. So on to the last one. All right, 5th and final attempt of the day. L-sit is definitely starting to fade. Up, not quite. Get back up there. Again, you see my left kind of bounce off there because it hurts. A little bit of push. That's about all we've got left at this point. But I'm honestly happy I'm doing anything. This is the 5th set of the day and 4 days in a row. More baby iron crosses. Thinking about going up again. Can he do it? Yes, he can. Although, again, my left, I think that's why we got that weird side-to-side shaking, because I didn't want to take much of the load to my left, and I came down oddly. So that's the end of that. And if we go to the scoreboard, that's 56.5 seconds in the air with 1 touchdown. So for the day, as a grand total, we have 309.2 seconds in the air and 7 touchdowns. Okay, some takeaways, and then I'm going to wander off. This was 4 days in a row with a new setup still. And it was the first day that we got past 5 minutes. And I don't think I was really just idling for much of that time either. So now we're over 50 minutes in total across these 15 days. We went for a record height. Now, I will say about that, I came down early because I thought I'd set the bar too low. And I realized before my feet even touched the ground that it was at the same height it always was. And you may be thinking, well, don't you notice this visually? And honestly, I am blind as a bat without my glasses, but I can tell about how far away the ground is. But it doesn't really seem like my brain is taking what I'm seeing as much of an input to doing this. It's really more taxed with feeling and adjusting things. So perhaps I could have gone higher. We'll never know. Now, let me shrink myself down here for a second and talk about the best parts. I'm close to both a handstand and a shoulder press at this point. On my first attempt, I went from here to here. On my second attempt, I went from here to here. On my third attempt, I went from here to here. So I have the physical force to move anywhere within that range. I just need to get to where I have one push that moves me across that whole range. And as I've said before, I'm not out to injure myself. My shoulders feel all right, but my left calf is kind of sad. So we're not going to go for 5 days in a row, and I apologize, I'm old. So that's it for the day. Feel free to check back in or not. Up to you.